Hi, folks. Welcome to the Bradley J. Show. Today we're going to talk with Mim Michelove, who used to be a WBCN photographer, moved out to California and started a nonprofit, which is the subject of our talk today. Hi, Mim.
Hi, Bradley. So good to see you.
So what you do is healthy food oriented, and basically, in the larger sense, you make sure that as many people as possible can get healthy food. But first, before we talk about how you do that and your journey to get there, let's talk a little bit about those glory days, the good days at WBCN. For me, the good days were over in like '97, so I had 15 good years there, and you had some really good years there. The heyday, the halcyon days,
Yeah,
and you have an interesting story about your very first photography gig. But even before that, how did you get into the photography? You were kind of a. How did you get into being a local Boston rock kind of gig band photographer?
it really all did start with WBCN because I was David Bieber's a substitute maid. Did you not know
Really?
the story? Yeah. So I was like substituting as his maid, and he said he heard that I was taking pictures of, I was doing photos of like punk rockers, but dressing them up in prom outfits.
That's a good idea.
It was fun, actually. I just turned it into a greeting card series for a while there. And so he asked me to come into to his work, which I didn't even know what his work was yet. And then I brought him my work, and he said, "Hey, I got a job for you. Let's try this out." And that was the first gig, which was with Aerosmith, and a big anniversary party. So it was like very exciting,
It was a
very
big
crazy, exciting day.
it was a big anniversary party, and we are having trouble remembering the actual which anniversary it was
Yeah.
and what date the show was on. I seem to remember that it's the 20th. Mim says that doesn't really work out date wise for her in her head. So any input any of you would have if you watch this after the fact, put them in the comments. And that was a big gig because WBCN had Aerosmith as maybe the headliner. I don't know if it was the only band or not. And every ticket was given away free to WBCN listeners. That's insane.
Oh,
That's
it was great. It was. I just remember the show was great. The vibe was great. It was. You guys were great. It was very exciting.
and all the BCN jocks got to go on stage, and some people, including you, I believe, got to take a picture. So you got to go on stage. You know that you
I
were up
was
there
on
take.
stage as well. Yeah, I
And
was
there
running
are
around below stage between people and security and the stage, and then up on the stage. Yeah.
and you had a heavy duty credential badge to get you backstage and everything, and you thought, wow, this is exciting. And other photographers were there, including, I believe, Leo Gosbekian, Michael Grieco, and somebody else.
Fill
Who
and
was there?
flash. Yeah.
Phil and Flash.
It was
Who
all. I just remember being like feeling very like it was the male club.
right. And also, there's this photo that I have of the jocks up there, and I want to post it, but I want to be able to give photo credit, and nobody can tell me who took it. Even Mim can't be sure because there were four photographers. How would anyone really know? Because if
You
there are
can see
four,
like there are some of those photos going around, and I have checked with my contact sheet to see like the little tiny differences between people's expressions and things like that. So, but I don't honestly know where my contact sheet is at the moment, so that's
I
why I
see.
couldn't check.
Time is a terrible thing. So you do have all that stuff, right?
I do. I have all of it from 84, maybe a little earlier, to to moving to LA and becoming more of a movie star photographer than a rock and roll
Okay.
photographer. Yeah.
So there's that, and then you left, and you just left Boston. I won't ask you why. Do you want to say, or I don't even know really? You just said
I mean,
I'm
I
done.
honestly, I can't say for sure, but I know that I needed a change. And um, and back then, remember Boston and LA hated each other. And I moved to LA, so people were really mad at me.
Uh huh.
Or at least Boston hated LA. I don't know if LA even thought about Boston, but in the rock and roll scene and the punk scene, and Yeah, I just needed a change. I've learned over the years, I was still quite young then in my 20s. So I just learned over the years that I have a very curious mind. And when I want to learn about something, I just go and like dive in deep. And so I must have been curious about LA photography.
And it can't be that easy to insinuate yourself into the highly competitive movie star photography thing. How did you manage to do that? I guess you
Yeah, it
did.
turned out to be like incredibly easy. I got a job before I even moved. I had enough street cred from BCN and all the work that I got through that over the many years. And so I ended up for the first time working for other people. So I ran some famous photo studios and because I knew how to do all the work. So eventually I started freelancing again, but I started out working for other people
And
and
you,
running their studios. So it was like really like back in the day, very famous people. It was Bonnie Schiffman and Harry Langdon. So I was immediately in with like,
wow.
I was hanging out with like Wolfgang Puck and Frank Sinatra, and like it was good. It worked out really well.
But you didn't like it.
Well, I just didn't like the fact that it was it's like a 24/7 job, right? Like you're shooting in the day, maybe a concert at night, and then all the people you know are in the industry, and that's what I didn't like. And so I just wanted to burn a bridge, get out of the industry, meet people who were not maybe didn't know much about pop culture even, and like we're not name dropping and trying to impress all the time. I just wanted to be more normal.
Yeah, it feels like the big stars, having made it and all, they don't have to try to impress. It's all the wannabes who are
It's all the peripheral folks,
who are
exactly.
super super duper irritating,
Yeah,
vying for favor of the star, vying for.
yeah.
I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah, it's the
Although I
agents,
didn't
the
live
managers,
there,
the sycophants. It's like it's a little crazy.
I only know peripherally because I have a friend who's, Christine McCarthy, Christine Elise, right?
Of course, yes.
Right, right, right. She was super awesome, always has been super awesome. But when I would go visit her, I would get a slight feeling from being in the area, not necessarily hanging around with her, but my visits to her. And also, I did work the Grammys for 3 years as an interviewer.
Ah,
And so I
yes.
really got to see that there. That's where I know it from, not from hanging around with Christine. Christine and all her friends, who are mostly from Boston,
Oh, I
were
know
on her.
Angie. Angie, is that her name? Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So
I mean,
you,
I was like, I would work with people. So because I was running the studio, I would be like having to know their shoe size and their dress size. And I'd be like in their homes for a few days or like, so I got really inside scoopy. Lots
uh,
of meals together and like just getting to know all the people around them.
some people like that scene, some don't. So
Yeah,
now
I think most people think it's amazing.
let's get to what you do now, because that's why we're here. Why we're here. I'm trying to use this technology for the forces of good, and
Aw,
more and more going to
love that.
be trying to help nonprofits and trying to help people who are trying to help people, and that's what you're doing. Tell us what you do. You have as your title Healthy Day Partners, and I know that you're very involved with healthy food for all, actually, not just a few rich people, but for all. And you walk the walk. You don't just talk the talk. Tell me how you walk the walk.
So it is interesting. I did start my career in a very affluent area, and it just hit me. Well, I mean, I've always cared about everyone, but when my becoming a mom is what changed everything. And so when my son was in this particular school, I was a garden teacher. I volunteered as a garden teacher. Oh no, I think I got paid actually. And I very quickly learned that this school was at least 50% very low income, and kids didn't have food at recess. And it suddenly occurred to me that it's because their families couldn't even afford like a snack for them at recess. And so it all started with a kind of very quiet, it was called, I think it was called Healthy Snacks. And so we just quietly in the classroom provided really healthy snacks for those who couldn't afford them, really high end healthy snacks, and then would teach the entire school. We would have taste tests and stuff and try to teach people about healthy food. And then it grew into creating these educational gardens and farms kind of in the forefront of this. It's very common now, but it was kind of controversial then, trying to educate folks outside and in the garden and use the garden as the educational hub. And so, yeah, I got really into, I was also the environmental consultant. That's something that a lot of people don't know. I was an environmental consultant for the school district and put in a lot of green, all kinds of efforts that ended up saving them over $1 million a year. But some of that was the gardening, and I just fell in love with that. And I really wanted to be teaching all kids that food is for everyone, healthy food access is for everyone. And so I really wanted to integrate social responsibility into the actual educational planning for the school district. And so that was easier to do in a garden, growing food, walking it over to the neighborhood food pantry, and turning the kids into little activists, or I call them agtivists because they're agriculture. Mm-hmm. And so I got really involved in, I don't know, I just cried. I mean, that's what it was when I realized 5 minutes away from my home, people are hungry and really, truly do not know where their next meal is going to come from, even for their children. And so it just changed me as a human being. And it has ever since become the focus of my life, trying to help people not just learn how to grow their own food, which of course we focus mostly on food insecure folks learning how to grow their own food so they're less reliant on handouts, but just really thinking about the food system and how I think COVID made it pretty obvious, how unfair it is, unjust it is. It's steeped in racism and classism, and we have so much food, but it is not distributed equally. And we have so much food that we waste 40% of it and throw it away. Well, 25% of us are hungry. And that just that gap has to be filled. So that is the focus of my life right now.
So
just trying to help in a grassroots way, one community at a time, one garden at a time, ending hunger.
How do you do that? We've talked about what you do now. How do you do it?
So we have a bunch of programs. One, from the beginning, we did these one school district at a time and developed these educational farms that I was talking about, and trying to gear the farm towards science education. So it's like a satellite campus, but at the same time growing healthy food for the school lunch program. So in Encinitas, where I started, we completely transformed school lunch from 100% packaged and processed to local and organic. We established the first certified organic educational farm growing for its own school lunch program in the country. And then I realized, okay, this is great. I know how to do this. I should really be doing this in a low income area. And so I am now focused over closer to the Mexican border and working with school districts there and helping create garden education that is the same for every student, and having that fully integrated into general education, and making sure kids know where their food comes from, how to grow their own food. Maybe they'll be growing something that they're getting in the cafeteria, so that they're really connecting to what it takes to produce that. And it is important that we also send gardens home for kids to grow with their families, and intergenerational garden growing is very important, and just, culturally appropriate, seasonal, just giving people a life skill, empowering them to, for the rest of their lives, supplement their access to healthy food. And then we have a program where we teach the most food insecure folks in the county how to grow their own food, even if it's in a bucket, because we know that there's a lot of, there's low land ownership in the population that we're serving. And so we teach them how to grow seasonally and eat seasonally. And we have donated over 27,000 gardens to food insecure folks since COVID lockdown. And we're still going strong, maybe even stronger than ever. Unfortunately, those lines are getting longer again because of the price of food. And then we help gardeners who are already growing food grow extra food, and then we collect that and donate that to the closest food pantry to where it's grown to keep food hyper local. And then we actually manage a program for our local utility, our regional utility, SDG&E, and we plant fruit trees in extremely low income neighborhoods, most marginalized populations, so that they also have increased access to healthy food. So we have a lot more programs than that, but those are like our basic, stronghold long-term programs that we've been working on.
So I have myriad questions, but first, what can you grow in a bucket? I'm interested in doing that on my porch.
Oh my gosh. So say you get a Home Depot 5-gallon bucket, you drill holes in the bottom and you put soil in.
Soil. Can it be just dirt, or does it have to be
it cannot be dirt. It has to be soil. Soil is living and dirt is dead. And so
you have to buy this stuff.
So you can make your own with compost, and it depends like where, like if you have where you live and what you can do, but you can buy a good garden soil, though I would also add worm castings to that if you want just an easy available fertilizer, organic fertilizer.
What did you say? Worm castings?
Worm castings. It's worm poop. Yeah. Worm poop's amazing fertilizer.
Casting. That's a nice euphemism. I'll have to remember that for all sorts of poop.
When you're casting. Mid-cast.
Okay. The next thing is, are you aware of any similar people like you doing what you do in our area here in the Northeast, or particularly Boston? No?
Well, I know that New England has really fertile soil, by the way. I'm super jealous of your soil, but also a really short growing season compared to us. Yeah. So I know in Vermont, there are tons of places that are doing things. I think in the Boston area, there are, I know when I was visiting recently, I noticed in South Station, there's this really cool, I wish I could remember what it's called, but there's this really cool edible garden on public land. And it is called Green something. I can't remember what it's called. But I was so impressed to see that.
As time goes on, if you think of an organization or happen to come across an organization around here, let me know and I'll get them on. How do you get?
That would be great. I love that.
What do you do about funding?
Yeah, we're really reliant on grants and donations. So we're always looking for funding in case your listeners want to support what we're doing. In fact, we're about to launch a little campaign to build a bigger greenhouse. I have a greenhouse, and it's very small, and I need a bigger one because I grow about 1,000 edible plants a week. So I'm moving a lot of plants through.
Yeah.
Well, like I said, we donate. These gardens come with a variety of mature, ready to plant seedlings. So we go from seed all the way to donation here in my backyard of my house. You know what I didn't tell you though is because I know people like numbers, and especially when they're thinking of donating. So we have collected from home gardeners, which is suddenly legal. It used to be illegal. Gardeners could not donate to food pantries. We've collected over like 20,000 pounds of like herbs and lettuce and extra melons and zucchini and stuff like that, and just brought it immediately within 24 hours to the local food pantry. So that's going really well too.
That's serious.
And then what did you ask me? I don't know that many organizations near you, but I know there are plenty around the country now.
So how do you do you know how to write or ask for grants, or do you have somebody do that?
I'm a pretty good grant writer. Yeah, I'm still wearing all the hats. I'm a pretty small nonprofit. We've accomplished so much for such a small nonprofit. It's kind of crazy. I've won, I know this is probably embarrassing for me to say, but I'm going to say it anyway. I have won like national awards for what I'm doing, obviously local and like all kinds of stuff as well. But it's, I'm trying to, and I think it's because we're doing something different. I'm trying to if you can't say, oh, the food system's broken and then do the exact same stuff again. You have to think of a new way to go about things. And granted, it's from the ground up, but it's scalable to any community. Any community can be doing what I'm doing.
So we've been talking about vegetables and fruits. Yeah. Talk a little bit about meat and what would be a better way for the meat industry here in the United States. What would be a better model? What would you like to see?
I mean, regenerative farming. I don't know. Do you hear that? It's like a buzz. It's like a very trendy thing to talk about. Do you read about that and hear about that there?
now today is the first. I haven't
Okay.
heard the word regenerative, although I can probably figure it out
Yeah,
what it
so
means.
regenerative is like bringing life back to the soil.
I
And one
see.
of the ways to do that is actually to raise your livestock um, in a way that they're eating the grass and it depends. Like chickens, we want eating bugs and things like that, but they are then pooping on that land, and that is
Casting.
just
The
unbelievable fertilizer, right? And they
yeah.
are bringing total like all the microbes, all the fungal needs to the soil
Yeah.
and bringing it back to life,
So
which is
that's
the opposite of conventional monocropping, penning up the animals, deforestation to make room for, more and more animals. So regenerative farming is definitely very important for the future because it also, once you plant your plants in this healthy soil, you're growing healthier plants and you are sequestering carbon, which I don't think a lot of people understand. Like the decisions they make about food really impact the planet and, global. I don't want to call it global warming anymore, but climate change. Climate change. That's what I'm trying to say.
if we
So
forget before.
anyone can be a climate activist just by figuring out, healthier ways to get their food and keeping food local and making sure that animals are being raised properly and, not in large, huge amounts, but just to feed the people where they live, like the more food is raised and grown where and when it's needed, the more we are avoiding packaging and warehousing and cooling and all the storing and all the transportation that we
Right.
all know like comes globally. Like if
Wow.
we ended that, we'd be using a lot less fossil fuels and natural resources.
I'm very glad I am speaking to you, but make sure that I ask you to tell us how people can send you donations before we leave, and that will be after this final question. Tell me about health and food. There's a more intense and direct connection to health and food than I thought when I speak to you. Like eating quality food makes a big difference. What
Oh,
would we see
absolutely. So when you think
change?
of what was that? What was your
What would
question?
we see change if everybody ate the way the kind of food they
I
should?
mean, if
Well,
people were eating seasonally again and locally, obviously we'd have much cleaner air and much cleaner water. We would probably need, I don't think we really do need pesticides, but we would need far less toxic poisons in our food,
yeah.
which don't really, it's like counterintuitive poisoning your food. And
Yes, it is.
so, and because you're not just poisoning your food, you're poisoning the land and the water as well and the air.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, that's just like a kind of like no brainer. But obviously, the fresher the food, the more nutrient dense. I've been hearing a lot about calories in and calories out as far as like gaining weight, losing weight. And it just completely ignores the healthy part of things. Like if you eat a donut and the same amount of calories that are like in green, if you take it from like fresh greens or green juice or something like that, I mean, clearly your body is going to be responding at a cellular level
Yeah.
differently to both of those things. So, yeah, we would be eating much more nutrient dense,
I'm
locally
pretty pleased.
grown.
I'm pleased to announce
Oh,
that I
here,
have.
can you see this? Oh, it's backwards, huh?
It says no, it's
Um,
not. Grow food, end hunger, save the planet. Save the
yeah,
planet.
so that's Healthy Day Partners. That's our motto.
All right.
Grow food, end hunger, save the planet. It's really it's pretty simple when you think about it. You just think about your food choices. Eat less meat, eat more vegetables, source quality, you want to support the farmers who are regenerating the soil, and you think of the soil as the skin of our planet. I mean, we have to regenerate it.
Yeah, Boston Bob's watching. He had cataract surgery today, and he's already watching. That's good, I guess. Although, you're probably watching with one eye, right? Just say no to GMO. Very good.
Just say no to GMO. Yeah, I like that a lot
All
too.
right.
Yeah.
So now, how can folks donate to you or help you out?
Oh, I love that. So, healthydaypartners.org. You can see all of the programs that we do, and there's a donate button. We appreciate donations. We are always in need of donations. I do a lot of grant writing, but it's a big job. That's a full-time job.
Well, I got to say, it's very pleasing for me to talk to you. You know, I knew you back in in the early to mid '80s, and then I hadn't had any contact with you really, not much at all. And then boom, for some reason we said, "Hey, let's chat," and then we said, "Let's Zoom," and then I said, "That was yesterday," and I said, "Let's do this." And
I
then
love
there
it.
was,
And
and as
you're
we,
exactly the same. You sound the same. You look the same. I've always loved you, Bradley. Still love you.
you think I'm the same? Because I think I'm actually better. You know,
Oh, that's so good.
I was kind of.
Oh, all right. I like that.
You're probably better too. I mean,
I hope I'm better. Yeah, I really hope so.
you know, you if you try, you can be better when you get older, and you're more aware of how being a jerk. I'm sure I was a jerk, and back then, and you know, not just unthinkingly. I thought it was okay, but as I look back, you know, it's probably more self-centered than now. I still suck, but
We're all
not
jerks.
as much. Yeah.
Yeah.
So okay, so that's great, and say hello to Charles and all the people I know out there that you know, like Tammy, Heidi, who's
Aw,
hanging in there. She's
I
sweet.
just
And
love Tammy.
you didn't know Catherine Lauren, but she's out there, and you're still kind of pals with Charles, which is nice.
Yeah, I like remembering those days now. There were like 10 years I just wanted to be away,
Yeah.
away from the business. But it's nice to remember now. We did some really cool stuff. We met some amazing people, and it was really fun.
Yeah, and maybe Charles, if you see this, you could share it because you have such power. Maybe you could help get a little funding for Mim's operation here. So there you go.
Love it. Love it. Thank you, Bradley. Any bands out there want to support us? Have a fundraiser. Love it.
Okay, so it's Mim Michelove. Did I say it right?
You did.
I did. I never really knew how to say that last name all this time, and so now I do, and it's great to reconnect. All the best to you, and we'll chat soon.
Thank you, Bradley.
You're welcome. We're almost done. We'll be done in a minute.